Today what the judge basically said in court today was that first-degree murder will not be put on the table for the juries to consider. But second-degree, voluntary, and involuntary will all be considered for the verdict for the jury to decide on.
Now, Judge Perry said that the second degree carries a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Can you break that down? How does that come out to 40 years?
Well, if I understand it right, the max time for an enhancement with the gun involved in a murder brings 25 years. So it can range from 10 years to 25. So the actual sentencing for the murder itself, second degree, is 15 years. So if you add 25 on that, you basically get the 40 years.
Now, how do you feel about the other two possibilities of voluntary and involuntary manslaughter?
Well, if I take a look at involuntary manslaughter first, I'll take issue with that because if Mehserle is found to have involuntarily had murdered Oscar, he may just get probation. He'll be able to go home and eat dinner that night and then look forward to living his life as if nothing ever happened and probably get a job at another police station. You know, and that's a sad note. Voluntary is important because it at least marks the beginning of the process of police officers being held accountable for their actions to a lesser degree than second-degree murder. But ideally, what we want and what we believe and what has occurred is second-degree murder, and that in itself will bring a hope back to the community that today officers can and will be charged for murder if they commit murder and therefore be sent to prison as a form of punishment for that murder they committed.
Now, I didn't get to ask you about one of the witnesses, Mr. Meyer, witness for the defense, a retired LAPD expert in tasers and use of force. He's actually someone that in the past had stated that the Rodney King beating was not excessive force. He had a lot to say about what he saw on that platform. What's your reaction to Mr. Meyer's testimony the other day?
You know, the so-called experts that the defense brought forth shows that if you have money, you can buy and hire experts to speak on your behalf. In other words, they're hired, high-paid prostitutes. They sell themselves to the highest bidder, and they will say what you pay them to say. These two experts, especially Myers, were getting paid to testify on behalf of the police force and policemen, and so they carried an enormous amount of bias. And when he stated that what occurred with Rodney King and the police officers beating him was not excessive force, tells you that, at least told me that, this man will say anything to get paid.
Now, what did you think about, he had mentioned that there were some recommendations that he would give to Taser International when he was under direct, but then under cross-examination by David Stein, he asked him, when did you give these recommendations to Taser International? And he said, just 2 days ago. I know you have some thoughts about that, I guess, out of the blue recommendation to Taser.
You know, that's how important to me this case was for the media to be a part of, because it would have at least held most individuals to some accountability to speak the truth. You know, here's an expert that has been complaining about day one when Oscar was murdered about the position of this taser and how to write Taser International with new recommendations. Been involved for the past 18 months. Discovered that he was going to be called as a witness and decided to change policy, at least make a recommendation to Taser International to change their policy in the way that tasers are worn with police officers. And to say that his recommendation went out on Saturday, which probably didn't get mailed until Monday morning, I believe with a timestamp showing that at least it was sent out, is just a total distortion of what this case is about from his perspective. You know, this man really is an expert liar.
Can you tell me what happened to Wanda yesterday? She collapsed right on the corner of the White House. What happened to her and how is she doing? She's doing a lot better. As a matter of fact, I had just spoke to her about 10 minutes ago, and she's resting. What occurred is that, you know, this has been very stressful. You know, the case has been moved to Los Angeles. You know, we've been required without any help to come back and forth to LA to see justice all the way through.
It is real burdensome. It is real tiresome. It's very stressful, and you know, and to hear testimony concerning Oscar and how he died from the pathologist, and the defense attorney Raines pouring salt on a wound that hasn't healed, really just raised her stress level to a point to where it actually caused her to collapse.